What's going on, people? I've been doing this project for 3 or 4 months, and essentially is showing how the far rights and neo-Nazis and people like that are the left wing, and it's been the left for many years have been chucking out their shit to the right. When this comes out, it will show you how they've done it and why they've done it. And today something come up of saying literally neo-Nazis and National Socialism is in fact a far right ideology, and it can never be left wing. So I'm just going to go through a few things just to prove very briefly, to prove that for people to be still going down the route that these knuckle dragging scumbags are actually right wing when it's not, and you're playing into the left's hands, because we don't want their trash, we don't want their shit, we've got enough on our side. So why should we be accepting that Nazism and neo-Nazism is actually it is actually right wing? It makes no sense. It makes no sense, right? It boils down to what the left have been doing for the last 20, 30, 40 years, and that has been trying to make the left this utopia type of place where everything's perfect and the policies are perfect and socialism's perfect and Marxism's perfect and communism's perfect, because there's a fusion of it all. So they've been doing this, and no one's really been standing up against it. No one's really been saying, actually, that's factually wrong. Because if we go back to school, we get taught about great philosophers and people like that. Karl Marx is the go-to. This guy is the one that everyone, when you go to school, you learn about him. When you want to do access courses, you've got to do socialism. When you want to do A-level, socialism's in it. You're always going to get told about this gentleman here, Karl Marx, the left's poster boy for Marxism. But this is what they're teaching you at school. So this is Karl Marx, the education system would say, the great philosopher of society, right? And then another person you're going to have heard of is Adam Smith. So Adam Smith's a philosopher. I would just say he's a capitalism philosopher. He's the one that said capitalism is the way forward. It's the way that it's going to work. He's going to put all the boundaries out in place, and he's written some good work, piece of work. Obviously what we're living in now is a fusion of some mad stuff, but it's not a true form of anything. But they'll teach you this in universities. They'll teach this in A-levels. They'll teach him all. He's not very well known. He's not as well known as Karl Marx. But then they never teach you about what's bad on the left, right? So they will promote these two people, saying these are the works and whatever, but they don't get to teach you about him. This is Giovanni Gentile. Many people would actually say that he's the philosopher of fascism. So it's born in 1875. You wouldn't know it from that picture. He was actually born in 1875, and he was one of the top philosophers in the first part of the 20th century. Again, this is why the left want to not let people know about him, because when you look into it, you will know that he's done some good bits of work. So what Giovanni thought of is there's two types of democracy that are diametrically opposed. But he kind of said this is too individualistic. You know, people can come and go and they can do what they like. It's selfish. That type of democracy is selfish. And the other type of democracy that he was a big fan on was one that was centered around the state, where the citizens submitted themselves. They were subordinate to the state. And that's his type of democracy. That's what he loved. And that's where he's different from people like Karl Marx, which he read a lot of. You know, some might say that he was a mentor type figure. So what Gentile believed in was what everyone on the left believes in right now, and it is that motto that everybody says, and it's we're all in this together. You know, we are a collective. We're not individualistic. And he was a fan of that. That was his type of true democracy. His true democracy is people subordinate to the state, and the state controlling how society is. So all you've got to do is live. You don't have to worry about the stuff that's going on around you. And that slogan is Jeremy Corbyn's used that. I'm sure it's Corbyn. Someone from Labour used it anyway. We're all in this together, and they're never going to get away from it. That is the left slogan. Now you've got to remember the one thing, that Gentile, he was a socialist. He was very left wing. In fact, he's the type of person that was like, fascism is socialism. You know, there's no difference between it. You can't have, it's like how we say you can't have Marxism without communism. We're saying you can't have socialism without fascism. The main difference between it is Karl Marx, his identity, I suppose, is based on classism. It's a major bit of Marxism. The difference with Marx is he was based on class. That's what he cared about. This is how his philosophy was. His philosophy was, if you take away the class, the class struggle, then you're not going to have that much of a societal divide. And you can see it now. You can see a class struggle now. This is why certain times I say about how freedom can get hijacked from the Marxists, because we all talk about the elites in the big house, and that's all he was saying. If you take away that class system, then we wouldn't have that debate. You know, you wouldn't be saying about the elitists and the working class. Fascism is socialism, but it's based on a national identity. And this is why it's so easy for the left to remove their fascism from the left wing over to the right. Because when you get a group of white British lads with the Union Jacks, they're proud of the UK, they're proud of England, St George in their heart, we're walking down, it's a beautiful sight. It is a beautiful sight. But what they did was they used that picture that we've all got in our heads, and they said, that's fascism, right? But if they had said it's fascism like that, they're all fascists, like what they do now. People might have cottoned on, and they might have said, well, actually it's a left-wing ideology, it's very socialist, it's got it's got its footprints of socialism all over it. So in fact it's not right-wing. So what they said was, you're all neo-Nazis, right? Fascism is another bit of neo-Nazism. And it's amazing that they called it neo-Nazism, because neo is new. So essentially they're saying to the people, we've made a new type of enemy. And there was a lot of people then was like, well, we're fucking boneheads, we're knuckleheads anyway. We don't want no black Union Jack. So we're happy for that, because of what Adolf Hitler, what he stood for, and he stood for an Aryan race. So yeah, let's go and do that. So they were happy that the left were calling people Nazis, but then they couldn't look into who Adolf Hitler was, because it's the National Socialist German Workers' Party. But they don't look at that. They just looked at the Aryan race and be like, yeah, we can do it, because they're not the most cleverest people. Nobody said, well, hang on a minute, you're calling us neo-Nazis, you're calling us fascists. Both them terms are left-wing ideologies. Both of them are. But that's what we're doing today. We're just going to call it out and say, well, you can have it back, because we don't want these lefties over it. We don't have anything in common. But because it's based on a national identity, the lines start getting blurred. So what Giovanni said was, there shouldn't be a distinction between public interest and private interest. He wanted the state to control it, and that's tyranny. That's a fascist government. And what people do is they confuse conservatism with fascism. They do it all the time, and this is just people that are not that politically aware. So conservatism is a small government and allowing the people to get on and do what they have to do. Right? We're a capitalist society, so just go out and do what you got to do. But these people are binding fascism with it, which is the opposite. Because as I said, it's not saying, it's a big government and it's telling the people what to do, how to think. Everything goes around you. If you think about it, private and public ownership, if the government's got control of that, it can manipulate one way to make the other happen. So it can use something like an assassination of an MP. It can use that public event to then tell the private businesses that there's no anonymous people online. No matter what they do, the government's fingerprints is all over it. If you want to know if it worked, if Gentile's side of politics, his philosophies, his fascism, if he thinks it works, you just got to look at Mussolini. He's a prime example. He even says, nothing exists outside of the state. This is how it is. It is all controlled by the state, and nothing can exist outside it. And when people submit to that, they're submitted to the state, and they're just going to carry on doing whatever they get told. So if you look up Mussolini, and then that is how Giovanni Gentile said fascism is going to work. So with that, you can see now, briefly, it's a very brief video, you can see now that fascism is so close to communism, is so close to Marxism. In fact, the only difference between all of these left-wing ideologies is fascism's got a national identity. So once you've got that national identity, it's easy for you to throw it away. Communism isn't great, but the left haven't thrown that away because they can't. There's not a way they can say that's right-wing. But believe you me, if they could do it, they would do it. And this is why the indoctrination for the education system over the last 30-40 years, they miss out Giovanni. They miss out him. Now, if you look at him as a philosopher, he's a great philosopher. If you look at him as a fascist, he's a scumbag. But the fact of the matter is, when you have the left in control of an education system, and when they stop teaching the works of certain people that they don't agree with, that right there is them controlling your knowledge. So nothing outside the school, you won't learn anything outside the school that you don't get taught inside the school. That there is fascism at a very, very loose way. If you looked at it so binary, if you looked at it as in we control everything, one centralized unit will control everything. If you look at that and then you look at what the left do, it's very, very clear that even now, in 2021, the roots are there. Their core ideologies, the roots of what they believe in, is stuck there from what Giovanni Gentile was saying. It's all good, them calling it the neo-Nazis and throwing it over to the right wing. Neo sounds all kind of old, whatever. It's just new. It's just new. So we could go and throw it back and call them the neo-fascists, the neo-Marxists, the neo-communists, the socialist conservatives. All these things we're not doing, and we need to do it a little bit more. We need to do it a little bit better. So when these fools out there, whoever they are, or when your children are coming home and they're learning about Karl Marx, or they're learning about Adam Smith, or they're learning about capitalism, and they're saying that because when you learn about fascism at school, it's normally Mussolini. That's how they do it. That's how they cover the whole topic. But it's important that we know the people that don't want us to know, because there's a reason why they're trying to erase them from history. And the reason they want to erase them from history is because they want to be the holy ones. They want to be the ones that got it done. They want to be the ones that nothing can go wrong in their utopia state. But believe you me, these neo-Marxists that we've got in the society now, these Black Lives Matter people that we've got in the society now, they don't know how close they skate along all of these lines, along the both fascism and communism. But we've got to be here on the right. We've got to be strong enough, and we've got to be open enough to say, you're talking shit. Take your fascism, take your National Socialism, take all of the stuff you're trying to throw over to the right, and do what you're doing with it. Because ultimately, right-wing politics, it should literally be conservatism. That's it. It's quite simple. It's only the left that started to make more and more divides within the left. And we've got it now in politics. I think it's in the last 76 years, there have been 38 years or something like that of a conservative government, of a right-wing government. Well, it's a centre-right government, it was. But the majority of the time the people have that, because when we're voting, we're only voting on one thing, and you're only voting, if you're centre-right, you can only vote for Conservatives. Really. There are people coming through now, and it might start getting a bit exciting. But essentially, you had three parties, the Social Democrats, the Conservative Party, and Labour. Now, you have the Liberal Democrats, which is the Social Democrats. You've got Labour, you've got the Green Party, you've got... There's another one. I can't remember who it is now. So you've got these people all dividing one side of society. And we've got people, social commentators, who are very left-wing, like Femi, who like to say, well, if you add up all the parties on the left and you added up their Brexit votes, then it adds up to about 56%, which means more people voted against Brexit than for Brexit. But it's their fault that they split the vote. Why don't they just bring it all to one central unit? Because they all support socialism, they all support Marxism. A higher percentage will be communists anyway. And do you know what? Fascism, they're just not ready to take it back, because they think it's right-wing politics when it's not. There we go. That's it, in a nutshell. So when people say, you're fascist, you're right-wing thug, you're right-wing fascist, National Socialists are right-wing, you can say, yo, no. What about him? And then you probably won the argument.